All right, guys, welcome back to the Let's Talk Ball pod. This is going to be episode one of the Premier League season. I believe this is like episode 4 or 5 of the podcast in general, but this is the first episode of the Premier League season. We're really excited to start things off, kick it off with you guys. And what we're going to talk about today is just a preview of the season coming up. We're going to talk about some EPL table predictions, who we think is going to be in the top 8, who we think is going to win it all, and then who we think is going to get relegated. And then later on, we're going to talk specifically about United and Arsenal because those are our clubs that we support. And then on top of that, we are going to talk about some Premier League superlatives like Golden Boot, outside of Erling Haaland, if you think it's going to be him. And then our player of the season, as well as at the end, we're going to get a little treat and talk FPL, talk Fantasy Premier League as well. Beautiful. Well, now that we got that out of the way, we can jump right into the Premier League. So I want to start this by talking about what our table or our predicted table is going to look like. And I want to start with who we think is going to get relegated. This one wasn't so easy for me. Last season, it was the 3 teams that got promoted did get relegated, which is, I think, something that the Premier League is a little bit worried about because they want it to be a viable option for teams to get promoted and actually be able to stay in the league and not just bounce right back down. So it'll be really interesting to see if the same thing happens this season. That being said, I chose the 3 promoted teams to get relegated this season. As far as Leicester City goes, I think that they're going to have some trouble adapting to life post Maresca, and they also lost a key player in Shrewsbury Hall. And just looking at their squad, it just doesn't look like they have the firepower, I think, to compete in the Premier League. So they're the first team I picked to go down. I picked Ipswich next because Ipswich, I think Kieran McKenna has a really exciting project going on over there, and they played some really good football coming up from, I think it was League One, and then from League One to the Championship, and then Championship to the Premier League. But I think they're growing a little bit too fast for their club, at least in my opinion. I don't know much about them, but I just find that I feel like making that jump is going to be tough to the Premier League this season. And so I think as much as they're going to try and play good football, I think they'll look similar to Burnley, where they're going to make some mistakes and end up not being able to replicate what they were doing in the Championship in the Premier League. And then lastly, I've got Southampton. I think there's just a gap between the Championship teams and the Premier League teams, but if anyone's got a chance, it is going to be Russell Martin, Southampton. I think they've got enough players that have been in or around the Premier League. I trust Russell Martin. I think he's a great manager. So I think he's got a chance if a team like, say, Nottingham Forest ends up falling off this year. But it's hard to see any of the promoted teams staying up as it stands. What do you think, Spain?
I'm also picking the 3 promoted teams get relegated this year. I think Ipswich, they've got it's a really cool story. I think they got promoted the past 2 years, back-to-back years, but they just don't have that many experienced players. They've got one of the cheapest squads, definitely the cheapest squads in the Premier League this year. But I don't think they have a player valued over $1 million is something I've heard. So just with them having a low squad value, that is so important nowadays and is a big predictor in how a team finishes. So just based off their squad talent, I think they will get relegated. Leicester, I also just coming up, they're at a disadvantage. They've got a weaker squad overall, and it also sounds like they're going to be hit with some PSR rate fine, so they might get a points deduction, it sounds like. So that's going to really hurt them on top of already being a challenge. And then Southampton, I agree, have the best chance of the 3, but I just don't see any other teams in the Premier League doing poor enough to fall into the relegation. I do think Nottingham Forest, as you mentioned, is when I was looking, have like the greatest chance of falling down. Maybe Wolves, but Wolves just, I think they've got a really good coach. I don't see that happening. And there's really just looking at the rest of the teams. I don't see any of the teams dropping down into the relegation battle at all. Or not, there will be teams in the relegation battle, but I don't think any team that's in the Premier League already will in the bottom three.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I'm just thinking like squad for squad, pound for pound. It's hard for the relegation teams to match up. It's like even like a team like you said, Nottingham Forest or Wolves. Like Wolves, I really like Gary O'Neill. I think he's a really, really good manager. So it's hard to like. I don't see him not being able to pull something, at least enough of an effort together. Even though they lost a player like Pedro Neto, still see him being able to put together good enough performances to avoid relegation. Nottingham Forest, they're a little bit more of a mess of a team, but at the same time, like you're still looking at a front four or five players of like Anthony Elanga, Taiwo Awani. You've got Callum Hudson-Odoi. Morgan Gibbs White is a great player as well. Like it's just they have talent in their squad despite being looked at as one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, Brentford were also in the relegation battle last year. They didn't have Tony for the first half of the year. He came back, wasn't great. They might lose him, but they also are missing two of their wing backs basically all season.
Mhm.
So they could be in the relegation battle again this year just because they had a poor season last year. But I don't expect them to really be down there or to end up in the bottom three at all. So yeah, it just comes down to the strength of the squads. In the Premier League are already quite strong.
Yeah. It was really interesting looking at the Premier League table and trying to kind of put it together. I think we're only going to talk about top eight in relegation here, but I went ahead and tried to rank like all 20. And it's so interesting to see that like there's probably a top like 10-ish. Like I feel like not to jump ahead, but I feel like there's a couple teams that are obviously going to compete at the top, but then spots like three or four through like 10, it almost seems like anything could happen. And then that 11 through 17, it just like it really couldn't. It was hard to really place teams in that range. Like I feel like any team, it'll just come down to how lucky they are with injuries and certain results going their way.
Totally agree. Yeah, like you said, picking those like 11 to 17 is so difficult. So I'm glad we're not doing that.
Yeah, same. But we are picking top eight, so let's jump into that. Spain, I'll let you start actually, and I will do mine after you.
All right, you want me to start from top to bottom?
Yeah, you can go top to bottom, start with your winner, and then work your way down.
Okay. I think this is the year for Arsenal, so I'm picking us to win the league. My Gunners. I'm going to talk about more on that later on why I think we're going to win the league. But us to finish first, City second, Liverpool third, Newcastle fourth, Tottenham in fifth, Aston Villa in sixth, United in seventh, and Chelsea in eighth. Tochi, I'll let you give your eight, and then we can discuss more on why we picked each team in that order.
Nice, nice. Since you went top to bottom, I'm gonna go bottom to top just to see how it's gonna go.
All right.
So if we're gonna let's rank the Premier League top eight. Starting in number eight, I'm gonna go with Newcastle. I think they're gonna have a good enough season to compete, but at the same time, there's just so many good teams ahead of them that I had a hard time putting them up there. And then Chelsea, I have them in spot number seven. I think they've got a load of talent. They have so many good players in the squad, maybe too many good players in the squad, and I think it'll be interesting trying to get that all to mesh with a new playing or a new style of play coming in with the new manager with Enzo Maresca coming in and trying to stamp his imprint on the team. I watched them in preseason a good bit. They're probably the team that I watch the most besides United, and I think that they might struggle just a little bit at the beginning of the season. And if they don't get off to a hot start, I think other teams will get off to good enough starts to make that difference up. Next, in spot number six, I've got Aston Villa. I really like the project that Unai Emery has going on, and I think they've got a good squad that they bolstered. I really like the signing of Amadou Onana, and a couple other players that they brought into the team. But they've got Champions League for the first time this season, and that is going. I don't know if it's the first time ever, but first time in a while, first time for this squad, first time for this manager and them together. And I think that's a whole different beast trying to manage Champions League football and league play and trying to maintain your level. So I could see them dropping off a little bit from where they finished last year. Spot number five, that's where I have Manchester United coming in. I think they have made some good additions this summer, but I'm not completely sold that they're going to fix everything. And I think so the combination of the players that they brought in versus knowing that they had issues last season, I have them coming in at spot number 5. And number 4, I've got Liverpool. I gave them the edge over the other teams just because I think they have a talented squad, and I think they're probably one solid defensive midfield player away from having a near complete-ish squad. Like that definitely could still use some work, but at the same time, I think they've got a lot of talent, a lot of firepower. And watching them in preseason, I know we don't want to draw too many conclusions from that, but I really like what I'm seeing from Arne Slot. I think he's got a good team going and a good thing going on Liverpool. I think he was probably the best stylistic fit as far as managers go, even though he wasn't a super glamorous name ahead of this, but I think he will make himself a glamorous name in this league. And so I think he will be able to manage Liverpool to a top 4 finish. And then in spot number 3, I've got Ange and the Spurs. Shout out to my boy Bali. I think that they they made sneaky great additions to their squad. They're an exciting project. They're going to play exciting football, and I think Ange can manage a top 3 finish if he shows that he's able to adjust and adapt to the league. Next, in spot number 2, this is where it really gets interesting. I've got City. I think as good as they are, I think they're still going to be great. Obviously, I think it's probably going to be something where it goes to the final day again or near or close to it. I just think they can't possibly do it, what, 5 times in a row?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I know they could. I know it's Pep, but at the same time, that is such a high level to try and maintain. Their squad is getting a little bit older. Not crazy, but KDB is definitely getting up there. So if he has another issue with injury this season, it's going to be hard to replace his firepower again. I think I have an agenda against Phil Foden, but I think he ran a little bit hot last season. And then I just think it's hard to keep up the levels. They've got some new players coming into the fold, like Savinho. I don't know what he's going by. He went by Savio last year, but all of a sudden his name is Savinho. Now he's come to the Premier League, which is interesting. Um, but all that to say, I think Arsenal has added enough to their squad and has been there before and will be able to be just that much more consistent and squeak out that many more points this season to where they're going to finish in my top spot in my top 8. Just to reiterate my points, I think Arsenal and City are the 2 top dogs. They're going to be the ones competing for the title again when it comes down to the crunch time. And then spots 3 through 8 are pretty up for grabs for me. Like there's other teams out there that I think could even make a push for a top 8 finish. Like Crystal Palace looked really good at the end of last season. West Ham has assembled a sneakily good squad. Who knows what Brighton and some of these other teams are going to do. And then as far as teams like outside of the Man City and Arsenal tier, I think the clear ones that I think have a good path to 3rd and 4th are Liverpool and Spurs. And then there's just question marks around every single other team for me. And I think there's question marks around Liverpool and Spurs as well, but I think there's more question marks around the Uniteds, the Chelseas, the Villas, and the Newcastles of the world. But that's just my opinion. I think it could really, obviously, it's not going to shake out like that. It never does. There's always going to be your surprise teams. So we'll see what happens.
Mhm. It's interesting that you have Newcastle at 8th and I have them at 4th. I think that was like the biggest discrepancy when it came to our picks. So I thought that
Mm-hmm.
was interesting. I think Newcastle are going to sneak into the top 4 this year because they're not in Champions League this year. I don't think they're in Europe at all. So they've only
Mm-hmm.
got one game a week to focus on. I think Alexander Isak is going to have a great year. He had the whole summer off. Jumping ahead here, but I think he's going to be up there for the Golden Boot. Probably won't win because of Holland, but I think he's going to bag tons of goals. And with Newcastle only have one game a week to focus on, I think they could finish in the top 4. I also don't think they've lost anyone significant in the over the summer. Granted, they haven't really brought anyone in, but Harvey Barnes was injured a lot last season. He should come back
Mm-hmm.
healthier this year. I'm expecting a lot from Newcastle this year.
Yeah, that's honestly a really good point. When I was ranking these teams, I forgot, like, I didn't account for as much of European football as I probably should have. Like, I think that's a really good point. because I think that was something Newcastle struggled with a lot last year, which is why they dropped off from their previous top four finish, I believe it was because they couldn't really handle the demands of Champions League and Premier League football. So with that not being there, I think they'll be able to stay a lot healthier and look a lot more solid than they did last year because they went from being one of the best defenses to one of the worst defenses in the league, and I think that hurt them a lot. They had a
Hmm.
lot of injuries in that back line, and so hopefully they can keep a roster healthy this season. Um, Isak as well. That's what I was going to say. Isak, I think, will have an amazing season as well. I've been watching a little bit of him, and he already looks super solid.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's electric to watch. One of my favorite players. I'm rooting for him honestly this season to
Hmm.
get that golden boot. Let's see. Now that we've kind of covered our top eight, I kind of want to talk real quick about United and Arsenal specifically. So if you don't care about United and Arsenal, you can skip ahead to where we'll talk about our Premier League superlatives in general. But real quick, I want to talk about our individual club league finishes. So I'll start with United. For me, I think that United will finish in. If to be honest, it's hard to put them in a specific spot. I put them in fifth here just to have them somewhere on paper, but I think they'll finish anywhere from fourth place to could even be as low as eighth place. I don't think the lower end is as realistic after some of the signings that we got in recently. I think they will come good, but the reason I have such a wide range for them is because I think that United, one, they finished what, seventh last season, in their worst league finish ever. And I think a lot of that was
Eight.
due to injury and dysfunction. Oh, eighth, excuse me, eighth. They finished eighth last season, and I think that was due to a lot of dysfunction at the club. There was a lot of noise going around with our change of ownership. There was a lot of injuries, and basically, there's so many different things that happen that hopefully our luck can't be as bad as last season. And then on top of that, I think Eric Ten Hag had some naive tactics when it came to how we approached our press and our out of possession structure that left a lot of gaps in midfield. And just watching the last few games of the season against Newcastle, Brighton, and then City in the FA Cup, we changed our approach. We became a lot more pragmatic, relied on a mid block, and kept the spaces a lot tighter. And it's resulted in some better results for us. And we ended up using that to beat City in the FA Cup final. And then watching us in preseason, we've looked better with that. And we've looked better against City in the Community Shield at the beginning of the season as well. And I'm seeing some building blocks. And I understand that those things will fall apart due to injury like they did last year, or they can fall apart due to injury like they did last year. And I'm excited about the signings that we brought in. Specifically, Mateus Delict and Mazraoui. Those are going to be great cover at the back. We also brought in Lenny Yoro, who's probably, in my opinion, the best young center back prospect in the world. And so we're going to have a lot more. I think basically we're going to have the players to be able to execute on the tactics that Eric Ten Hag wants, and we won't just rely on this long ball, hoofball strategy that we did last year that caused us to get counterattacked against all game and left so many gaps and made us give up so many shots. Um, but yeah, I think I like the transfer window that United have had so far, and I think as long as we can bring in one more defensive mid, I think that'll complete our transfer window. And then a bonus signing would be a left back or left center back cover, so that we have an option for when Luke Shaw is inevitably injured. I don't know if any of you guys have
Mhm.
seen, but Luke Shaw is out probably until the first international break with a calf injury that he picked up, I believe, in his first couple of days back in training, which is just so Luke Shaw. And the worst part is his backup, Tyrell Malacia, has been hurt since before last season even started and hasn't come back yet. So he's not healthy enough to play. So this signing of Mazraoui is super, super key. I'm really glad we got it over the line for the price that we did. He's technically our backup right back, but he is versatile enough that he can play on the left or the right. So coming into our game against Fulham on Friday, I think that we're going to see Mazraoui deployed at left back, and he knows Eric Ten Hag's system well as being a former Ajax player. So I think he'll slot right in and help cover there. Um, just to talk more, a little bit more United, and then I'll pass it over to Spain to talk Arsenal and get his reactions on United. I just want to talk about standout players to watch out for United this season. I'm really excited to see the new signings, obviously, between Xerxes, Euro, De Ligt, Mazraoui. But I think our standout players are going to be Bruno Fernandes once again, who just signed a contract extension this morning. And then I think Amad Diallo is going to show a lot of people what he's made of this season. I think he spent a lot of time on our bench, but just watching him, he looks ready. He looks sharp. He's good out of possession. He's a really calming presence. When we get him the ball, he's the type of player that it just sticks. He's not the type of player that's going to give it away as soon as he receives. He can receive under pressure. He's good at interplay. With like players like Bruno or someone like Xerxes dropping deep and linking up with him. So I think that'll go really well. And then Alejandro Garnacho is my other player to watch out for from a United standpoint this season. Watching his goal against City and just the way that he played in general when he came on, I think he looked amazing. He's fearless. I tell people, I think his greatest trait as a footballer is the fact that he truly believes that he's him, and like he isn't scared of anyone, and he believes that he is going to win the match with every time he kicks the ball. And even if he loses the ball, he gets tackled, he just doesn't care. He's got the memory of a goldfish. He gets up and he goes right back at you over and over and over again. And I think if he can put that relentlessness together with a bit more technique, which it looks like he's picked up a bit over the summer, I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. But yeah, that's all for me. Actually, real quick, some concerns for United. Just to reiterate, my concerns are on our midfield. Casemiro is still our starting defensive midfielder, which I don't think he needs to be going into the season. We're linked with Ugarte, Sanderberg, who's a Burnley player, and a couple other players at defensive midfielder. I think if we can get at least one more combative, physically competent midfielder in, I will feel really good about our season. But if we start with Casemiro at midfield, I'm not sure how he's going to hold up over the length of the season. And as a result, I think we're going to see more out of possession issues. And then I'm also concerned about our left back position with Luke Shaw being so injury prone, Malacia still being hurt and not back. And then Mazarawi, he is technically our de facto backup left back, along with Sandro Martinez, who can play there. But all of those players are also a bit injury prone, so I could see that being an issue for us this season. But
Yeah,
that's all for United.
yeah. A few comments or just chat a little bit more about United before I talk about Arsenal. Yeah, I think if you guys don't sign a defensive center mid to replace Casemiro or to take minutes away from Casemiro, I think it could be you guys could finish a lot lower, which is part of the reason why I had United picked for seventh place finish, just because I haven't seen any that many strong rumors and for a defensive midfielder to come in and the injury issues that are continuing from last season for you guys over the summer, with Laniero being out for a while. Who do you think is going to start in defense at center back with Euro being out and Shaw being out? I know you said
Um,
Mazraoui already.
yeah, I think our back line is going to look like either Mazraoui or Dalot at left back and right back. Those two are pretty interchangeable. Diogo Dalot's shown the ability to play left back to a decently high level. So is Mazraoui. So it just comes down to who we think plays better at each position. And then I think our center back pairing is going to be Lissandro Martinez at left back or left center back, and then our right center back is probably going to be. I could see Mateus de Ligt if he doesn't start against Fulham. We'd probably start Harry Maguire there, but I think Mateus de Ligt is being brought in to be the starter until Lenny Euro gets back, and then him and Lenny Euro will rotate in that right center back position with Maguire providing cover at left center back. I think the good thing about De Ligt and Maguire is that they both seem pretty comfortable playing at left or right center back. So I think we'll have about four strong center backs that to rotate rather than having to rely on as soon as someone gets hurt. We have like 40-year-old Johnny Evans coming in and trying to do his best, try and roll back the years, but it's not working.
Yeah, I missed the Community Shield, but I heard his penalty did not do him any favors in
Uh,
terms of confidence for the
yeah,
season.
Yeah, that was. I felt bad for him. I mean, the guy's probably been asked to take like four penalties in his life ever, so like I can't really hold it against him. But he definitely did not look confident, and the penalty confirmed that.
Yeah, I need to go back and look up that clip. Jack told me it
Yeah,
was
maybe
just
I'll.
bad.
I might add it in here as we're talking about it.
You
It
should.
was bad.
And then who do you think is going to start up top? Because Rashford had an off year, was in and out of the squad. Sancho is still on United's roster squad for now.
Hmm.
But like you said, Garnacho had a great year last year, played tons of games. Ahmad's looking
Yeah.
really promising. I'm excited to see him. Yeah, so do you think Rashford's going to have a bounce back year like he seems to do? He seems to have a bad year, like a single digit goal year, then comes back with high teens goal year the following. Do you think he's going to bounce back? And just what do you think the front line's going to look like for United throughout the year?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think this is the front line that we should rely on in most games. I think when everyone's healthy, it's going to be Rashford left wing, Hoyland at striker, and then Amad Diallo at right wing. I think those are our best starters. But then Garnacho rotating at either left or right wing, depending on the game. Like if you need to give Rashford a rest or you need to give Amad a rest. But I think Garnacho is a really really good option against tired legs off the bench, and he can play off the left or the right, so he's a good option to bring in. Not as a starter. And then I think Xerxes, it'll be really interesting. There's just so many questions. Like, I feel like it's so interesting to go into a season with Eric Ten Hag going into his third season as United manager, but not having any idea really how United is going to set up
Yeah.
and what players are going to be playing. Um, Very, very interesting, but like it's also the same reason why I'm like cautiously optimistic about the season because
Hmm.
I think there is so much talent and more options in the squad now that I feel like we'll be able to produce some more answers. But I think if we want to talk, I'll talk Fulham real quick as well. I think our starting lineup against Fulham, um, with the injuries that we have right now, and how we're going to start the season. And this is important. I guess the context is important because I don't think Eric Ten Hag likes to rotate once he starts with something. So I think whatever lineup starts the season is going to kind of remain like that until some key players obviously come back, but then they're going to have to play their way back into the team. So starting lineup against Fulham, you got Andre Nana in goal, Mazraoui, Delo at the left and right back, Lissandro Martinez, and then it might be just a second too early for Matthias de Ligt to start, so probably Harry Maguire. And then midfield pivot in a 4-2-3-1, we're going to have Kabi Menu and Casemiro. And then at the attacking midfielder position, it's probably going to be Bruno Fernandez or Mason Mount. Left wing, I'm going to have Marcus Rashford. Right wing, Amad Diallo. And then at striker, Hoyland is still hurt. Xerxes is, I think, not 100%. So I think we're going to do a false nine and start either Mount or Bruno, whichever one isn't starting at the 10. Like they're pretty interchangeable. If you watch them in the Community Shield, they both are essentially playing the same position. Like Bruno's doing more deeper work in the midfield, but Mount's playing more towards the box. But when it comes to the press, they're both interchanging who's the highest up the field. But I
Hmm.
think that's the lineup we're going to go with to start the season and the players that we're going to see to start for the first couple weeks.
Yeah. You said, well, so Garnacho played a ton of minutes last year and deserved all those minutes and backed it up with really good performances. And you said he has the mindset of I'm him. You think he's going to be okay with Diallo getting that right wing spot, even though I think Garnacho played well enough to deserve a starting spot in the squad this year. Even granted, I do know like Garnacho's better on the left, but do you think Garnacho's going to be okay taking the bench to Amad Diallo, basically?
Yeah, I think he will as long as he's still getting his goal contributions, which I think he will coming off the bench against tired legs. Like I think as long as he's still scoring, still assisting, still contributing, he will. And Amad Diallo he's been our standout player in the preseason, and he was one of our best players to end last season as well. So he's done what he can to earn his minutes as well. So I think it'll be healthy competition on that right wing. I'm happy as a fan because I know whoever is playing, it's because they're playing at a high level because both of them look really good right now.
Gotcha. Move on. Want to move on to Arsenal talk?
Yeah, let's do Arsenal.
All right. I
Mm,
think this will be the year that Arsenal finally wins the league under Mikel Arteta. Last year, we were a more consistent and improved squad defensively over the previous year, and I think that trend is going to continue into this year. And ultimately, that'll be
hmm
enough for us to win to win the league this year. Given that we have a younger age profile on our team, I think our players will take that next step up, just getting a year older and a year of experience overall. Defensively, we should improve on a league best defense this year with Urian Timber coming back from a season long injury and us bringing in Ricardo Calafiori, which I think was a great signing. So I think our defense will be even stronger and better this year, even though we were great last year. Also, Declan Rice and Kai Havertz had a full year under Arteta, so I think they'll be even better this year. So I think given all those things and not really losing anyone, I think we will improve enough this year and be consistent enough to win the league.
Yeah,
However, there are a few things I'm
yeah.
worried about. You want to go ahead?
Oh no, you can go with your concerns first, then
Okay.
I'll come back to this.
Yeah, there are two main concerns I have for the team. One's being in midfield. I don't like the age profile of Jorginho and Partey, especially with Partey's injury history. Those are two things because we don't have that much cover at the defensive mid spot. So that's my main concern. But it looks like we're going to bring in Mikel Merino, which will give us a lot of physical strength and just someone with big stature in the midfield to help win aerial duels and ground duels. I think he'll also chip in with some goals, and especially I think he'll get some late winners like he did for Spain. But I think if we can get Marino in, that'll ease my concerns about the defensive mid spot with Jorginho and Partey, even though they both look pretty good in preseason. And then my other concern is just overall goal tally. We were linked with like some strikers early in the transfer window, but now it looks like we're not going to sign any. So that's just one concern is that we don't have like a striker that's going to get us 20 goals every year like City do with Holland. But I think we will
Hmm
score enough goals overall from Havertz. Like I said, he had a great year. I think we'll get even better this year. And then Saka, I think will have a great year. He'll chip in with plenty of goals. And then Odegaard, Martinelli, Trossard will also chip in just with enough goals overall. We'll have goals from set pieces as well because we're really strong on those. And overall, I think the team as a whole will score enough goals to win us in enough games, especially with how good defensively we are. So for all those
Yeah,
reasons, I think we're going to win the league this year, finally.
nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Arsenal, their time is coming, and all they've done is strengthen the squad. Um, I think to touch on Calafiori, like you said, I think he's going to come in and be a great addition to that back line. He's seems like he's a very technical player, like very comfortable kind of rotating and popping up in all sorts of areas of the pitch, whether it's advanced, holding with, inverted, like he can do it all. And I think he's going to be a great option for you guys because I know a lot of some Arsenal fans at least were kind of disappointed with Zinchenko at that left back sometimes at points of the year. So I think he will be an upgrade there. And then Urian Timber, I think, is going to feel like a new signing for you guys as well because he didn't get to play a lot of minutes, and that guy is really, really good at football. Like he is very good at what he does, and I think he's going to be someone that makes an impact and kind of shocks people that maybe aren't as familiar with his game this season. Mikel Marino as well. I think that's going to be a solid signing. I think he's someone that's going to give you 7 out of 10s every week. I'm not going to be the flashiest player, but solid enough. And what going back to your set pieces, I think he's another huge body, another physical monster that's going to be good at dueling in the midfield, but also set pieces, nicking a late goal when you need it, that kind of stuff. So I think Arteta and Arsenal have done some really good business this summer in terms of trying to at that point where they are as a team and as a project, it's about the marginal gains. And I think they've done a good job with the marginal gains this summer. Like you said, they were looking at a striker, maybe bringing another goal scorer. but I appreciated that they didn't just force a move and that they're waiting for the right move. It looked like Sesko was their guy. As soon as he was off the table, it looked like they kind of moved on to other areas, which I can appreciate from a squad building perspective. They want the best and only the best. So I think Arsenal's got the firepower to win the league this year as well.
Yeah, I think Marino, he also is bringing some good experience at 28 years old, kind of at his peak, you'd think. So I'm really excited to bring him in. He just looks like a really solid player. Like you said, 7 out of 10s every week is what I expect from him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
there's really
Yeah.
like not too much more to be said about Arsenal. I just think we're solid and like our
Mm-hmm.
project's going in the right direction. We were ahead of schedule 3 years ago or 2 years ago when we came in second. Last year we were close, but City just were better and they've got a phenomenal squad. So I think we're just on the right trajectory, going to get better, like we have been year over year, and I think this will be our year overall.
Yeah, I agree. I think them being young and that experience that they have over the last couple of years is invaluable. And again, going back to City, I think they're always going to be great. They're always going to be top. You know, Pep's got a tactical tweak up his sleeve, and he's always finding new ways to refresh the team, bring in some type of new tactic. But it just is so hard to maintain that level for so long. So we'll see if they can keep it up. But I'm rooting for Arsenal.
hmm I think Arteta might be coming for Pep for being one of the most strict and craziest managers. You see what he hires some professional pickpocketers
Yeah,
at a dinner.
I did.
The
I
man's
did see that.
insane.
He is crazy, man. I'd be sad. I mean, I hope it. I mean, maybe it works. I mean, obviously it is working. I'm not going to say maybe it works. It looks like it is working with the results on the pitch. So as long as they're still showing the results, I say keep doing your crazy thing, Arteta.
Yeah, the man's crazy and so locked in at all times. I don't know
Yeah.
how the players can do it all the time, but props to him. Props, and Arteta is recruiting the players that can handle that type of intensity at all times. So those, like you said, those marginal gains, Arteta is going for every little percentage he can get with being ready at all times.
Let's see. Do you have anything else on Arsenal? I know there's a couple young players, but I don't know if those guys are going to really come. I don't know how much of a role they'll play this season between, it was Miles Lewis Skelly, I think is his name, and then Ethan Nwaneri. Both of them look really, really good. Should play some type of role in the team this year.
Yeah, I think those are the two academy kids that have the best prospect of getting minutes this year. I think it depends on who we send out. For example, if we let Reese Nelson go, or Nketiah, or just some of those more attacking or midfielder positions. I think 1 year in, Miles O'Skelly will have more opportunity to get more minutes. But given that we have a pretty big squad and a good amount of depth, I don't expect him to get much time unless we have some people go out.
Yeah. But those are some good names to shout out. Still, I
Yep.
think they looked really good in preseason, and Arsenal looks like they got some players that are going to be able to help them maintain their level, even when some of these. I mean, you guys still have a generally young squad, but when some players start phasing out here and there, it looks like they
hmm
got people ready to step up and make the jump. Anyway,
Yep.
nice. So let's circle back and round out our Premier League preview talk. The last thing we wanted to touch on are some Premier League superlatives, specifically Golden Boot. We kind of already talked about this, but Golden Boot outside of Erling Haaland, and then Player of the Season. And then we also can leave some time at the end to just talk about if there's any other teams, players, managers, storylines we want to keep an eye on this season. But starting with our Golden Boot, I'll start because I know you mentioned Isak earlier, and shocker, my answer is also Isak. I think he is an incredible player. I think Callum Wilson moved on from Newcastle, which is why people are even higher on him this year. Or if he hasn't, he's like hurt every other game anyway, so he's basically not there.
hmm
Um, and I think Isak, this will be the year that he really kind of takes the league by storm. He already has looked good. He's produced some magical moments. Like I think off the top of my head, I think of that dribble that he had against Everton down the sideline, then by the byline, and then crosses it over to I forget who it was that tapped it in on that back post. But it he's just a very electric player. He's got very good close control when it comes to dribbling, but then a heck of a finish on him as well. And I think he is going to only explode even more this season.
Yeah, my pick for Golden Boot outside of Erling Haaland is also Isak, who could, in theory, beat out Haaland outright, which would be awesome to see.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think Isak is great. I think Newcastle are going to have a bounce back year. So I think he will be up there fighting Haaland for the Golden Boot. Dominic
Nice.
Solanke could be another player to watch out for in the Golden Boot race with his transfer to Tottenham. They do score a lot of goals. If he finds some really good form and he starts every game at striker and is on pins, which is to be seen. His son was on pins before. Um, I could see Solanke fighting there. It would just be interesting to see how the goals are shared between Son and Solanke on Tottenham.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of my favorite things to look out for this season is how that new signing will mesh in there. But I think he's going to be pretty good for Ange's system. I want to see him play and kind of see how he beds in there. But I think he's a top player, and I think Ange knows how to score goals, and he is the goal scorer on a good team. So I think he
Mhm.
will score a lot. Ollie Watkins is probably another player to watch out for as well. He seems, if he's carrying any sort of his form that he had in the Euros in the previous season, it seems like he's going to keep scoring goals as well. And if Aston Villa can get their output right, I think he's also another player that's going to be in the mix.
Yep, good shout.
Nice. Let's see. Moving on. Are you going to talk player of the season?
Yeah, who is your player of the season pick?
My player of the season pick is going to be, I guess I'll caveat it with, I think Arsenal are going to win the league. And if Arsenal win the league, I believe it's going to be Bukayo Saka. I think he is still very underrated for what he does, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. I think they're going to figure out their dynamics with him and hopefully get him. I mean, he already is involved in pretty much everything that Arsenal do, but hopefully, not to get too tactical, but I think there's a lot of Odegaard being on that right half space where Saka likes to play, and I've seen Odegaard kind of drifting out of that space and being a little bit deeper more recently, allowing Saka to kind of occupy those spaces. And I think if he does that, he'll get even more goals, be in even more dangerous positions, and will show his value here this season. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, I think Saka will also. That's also my pick for player of the season. He was close last year, so given that I also picked Arsenal to win the league, I think he will carry us to the title. And he's so consistent, so good. I think he'll improve on his goal tally from last year and probably his assist tally. So yeah, for those reasons, I think he'll just be better this year because he's still so young. I think he'll be the best player of the year.
Yeah, I like I said, that's what I think as well. If I had to pick someone from Arsenal that wasn't Saka, probably Odegaard or Declan Rice, but we shall see. If I had to pick someone that was not an Arsenal player because they don't end up winning the league and City wins the league, it will likely be KDB and okay, or KDB or Holland. Um, Probably KDB if he can stay healthy, but Erling Haaland if he just bags a bunch of goals this year, I don't really see why it wouldn't be him.
Yeah, I don't see De Bruyne being healthy enough to win the Player of the Year if City do win the league. He's just getting there in age, and his body just can't really keep up, unfortunately. Yeah, so it probably would be Holland or Rodri would be my pick if City win the league to win Player of the Year. Rodri is just so solid and so important to City. When he doesn't play, they struggle a lot more. But yeah,
Yeah,
still think it's Saka for me. But if City do win the league, Holland or Rodri.
nice. All right, well, those are our choices for player of the season. Just to round out this Premier League talk, do you have any players or teams or things to watch out for on your end this season that we haven't covered already?
I'm really excited to watch Fulham this year, actually. With Emil Smith Rowe going to Fulham, I'm going to be cheering for them. They're going to be my second team to root for. They've also got Iwobi, a former Arsenal player as well. Muniz up top for them was fantastic last year. They did lose Paulinho, who was really, really solid for them at the base of the
Hmm.
midfield, breaking up play. So I don't know how they're going to be defensively, so that's a big concern for Fulham. But if they can figure that out, I think they're going to be a really exciting team, and I'm going to be rooting for them. They've also got Anthony Robinson, who was Fulham's Player of the Year last year, who looks fantastic in preseason. He's really getting up and
Hmm.
down that left wing at playing left back. So I'm just excited to watch Fulham. I think they got an exciting team. Yeah, I'm hoping that they're going to be good and excited for them.
Nice. I would say for me, um, there's a few different storylines I want to watch out for this year. Ipswich, as Kieran McKenna being a former United, he was part of the United coaching staff. I'd love to see him do well, and he seems like someone that's going to try and implement a style of play that isn't that typical of a normally recently promoted side. So I'd love to see how they play, and hopefully they can kind of be exciting. Like I feel like I loved watching Luton Town last season, so I'm hoping Ipswich is going to kind of be my new like near bottom of the table team that I'm rooting for to like make it out of the
Mhm.
relegation zone. And then let's see, what else do we have on there? Crystal Palace. I'm really interested to see how they cope with life post Michael Elise leaving, but they had a really exciting project towards the end of last season, and I would love to see them kind of still put things together. Like they've still got Eze as of right now. I know there's some teams interested between City. I've heard some links to Arsenal as well, even. So that'll be interesting. But if Eze sticks around, Mateta's still around. Adam Wharton looks like a really great young player. Adam Wharton seems like he's a player that's going to go for 80 to 100 million pounds probably next summer. Um, I'm really excited to see Crystal Palace, I think, and then West Ham as well. That's who else I was thinking of. West Ham has brought in a lot of good players. They brought in Todibo recently at center back. I believe they also signed Kilman. They've got Nicholas Fulkrug, who they just signed. They've got a new manager. They've got a couple more players coming in that I think can make an impact. And I think they've got a little bit too much new to make a huge impact this year. But I think when they start to click, they could be a team that's going to cause a lot of trouble, and I would love to kind of see how they come together as well.
I'm really excited for West Ham as well. They've been such a boring team under David Moyes. They constantly disappointed when they had a good amount of talent, and they're a big London club. They've got money, so they've just been disappointing for a long time, just because they haven't been ambitious, in my opinion. But bringing in
Hmm.
Lopetegui as their new manager, and then the summer signings, I'm really excited to see what West Ham do. So yeah, that's a great shout.
Nice, nice. Well, that wraps up our Premier League talk. And right before we sign off, I just want to touch on some FPL. We are big fantasy Premier League guys over here. Spain is rocking the FML FPL podcast T-shirt over there.
Yep,
Avid listener, Patreon supporter, I believe.
of course, long time.
Um, nice, nice, long time Patreon supporter. So we just wanted to kind of talk and talk over our teams and who we have in our FPL drafts heading into game week one. Spain, do you want to start? You can try sharing your screen, see if that
Yeah,
works.
I'm gonna try to share my screen.
I'm on my phone, so I don't know if I'll be able to share mine.
Okay. All right. Here is my current draft. This is Wednesday, August 13th, so we're 2 days out from the deadline on Friday. Still got some tinkering to do, but my current lineup, I'm going with the Holland and Mo Salah draft. I think I'm going to end up with those two players in my team. If I don't end up with Salah, the things will change, but I think I'll end up with both in my team, so I don't expect my squad to change too much. But I've got Jordan Henderson in goal, Anthony Robinson, Gabriel, and Munoz as my starting back line. I've got Nkunku, Mo Salah, Eze, and Gordon in midfield, and then Isaac, Holland, and Muniz at forward. On my bench, I've got Turner, just a 4-0 goalkeeper. That could be any 4-0 goalkeeper. Got Rogers for Aston Villa, who I think will play a lot, it sounds like, and a really good budget option at 5 million off the bench. And then I've got Barco and Hardwood Bellis, two 4-0 defenders who sounds like they're going to be starters.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I like that.
Yeah. Nkunku is one spot that I'm not sure about, just with Chelsea and the million players that they have on their team. And I don't expect them to be that great this year. So he might move out. But the players that haven't moved from my team hardly at all are Munoz in defense. I think he's super attacking. I'm very impressed with him in Palace. Isaac is not going anywhere. Holland, actually, my front line, Holland, Muniz, and Isaac, I think is pretty set. Eze is pretty set in there. I really like Anthony Robinson, so I think he's set. Yeah, so not much going to be changing for my team if I stick with Holland and Mo Salah.
Nice. I like that. I like the look of that squad. I've got some
Yeah,
similar picks.
what are your thoughts on my squad? Initial thoughts?
Let's see, initial thoughts. I really like the idea of being able to get Holland and Salah into the same game week one squad. And then I like your front line a lot as well. Isak, Holland, Muniz. Eze, I've got him in my draft as well. And then I think you have some great budget options with Barco and what's the other guy's name? Harvard
Hardwood
Bellis.
Bellis from
Yeah.
Southampton.
I think those are some great budget options as well to kind of enable you to be able to keep Holland and Salah in the same team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I like it a lot, and I'm thinking it's making me think maybe I try and get a Holland and Salah partnership in there as well. That's what I really wanted to do, but just reading Twitter discourse, I saw some people saying that it might be difficult, so like I didn't even go for that just to keep it easy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Let's
but
hear
yeah, I
your
like your team
squad,
overall.
your
Yeah,
draft.
I wish I could put it on the screen for you guys, but I'll just edit it and I'll edit it after we're done talking and put it on the screen. But to start from the back, in goal, I have David Raya as of right now, and then I'm playing a 3-4-3 to help you visualize. My back three starters right now are Trent Alexander-Arnold, um, Mickey Van de Ven, but he might swap out of my team for another. I believe Mickey's 4.5 defender, so I might swap him out with another 4.5 defender before the deadline. I've got Gvardiol, who I think is going to stick around in my team. So that's my back line. Going into my midfield, I've got Bukayo Saka, Eberichi Eze, and then I've got two United picks right now just because I am high on United's attacking ability going into the next season. And I've got Marcus Rashford and Amad Diallo as my two midfield picks. I thought about Garnacho, but I think I'm just a little bit short, and I do think Amad Diallo will be the starter going into the season, so I'm going to bank on him getting his returns. But my issue with the United midfield and the United picks right now is that I am scared that there's enough options that players will get rotated and taken off early. So those guys are in my draft for right now, but subject to change, especially if I end up going the Salah route. And then moving on to my three attackers. My three attackers are Isak, Holland, and João Pedro is my one budget attacker. I think he's looked pretty good in preseason. With Brighton, I think he's going to be in and around goals for them. My backup goalkeeper is Jordan Henderson, not Jordan Henderson, Dean Henderson. Um, and then my bench in order is Emil Smith Rowe, Ezri Konsa, and then Barco from Brighton. So I'm not really sure. Like, there's definitely some pieces on my team that I think I'm going to move around. I think I'm pretty set with my attackers. I'm pretty set with my bench players. But besides Konsa and Van de Ven, I think I could swap out for some other cheaper 4.5 defenders or maybe even another 4.0 defender. And then I'm thinking about trying to get an Arsenal defender in and maybe going a different way with my keeper.
Nice. I like that squad. The biggest concern is Diallo, but if you're set on Diallo, then you gotta
Yeah,
back that up. And you
he's
also
my
got
like
you got
Diallo's like my passion pick this year. Like I
yeah.
think he honestly is underrated right now, and he's going to be a bargain at that price come end of the season.
Yeah, if you can get on him early before some early price rises, that could be great for you. And you got Smith Rowe on the bench to come off if he loses his starting spot or doesn't start for whatever reason.
Hmm. Yeah, that was kind of my thinking there.
Nice. Well, yeah, sounds like a good squad. We'll see if any of our fellow mini league players are listening and try and steal too much. I was a little
Yeah,
worried giving away some of like what my thoughts in case anyone listens, but we'll see.
I was too, but realistically, this is probably not going to get up before the FPL deadline anyway. Or if it does, they're not going to have much time to adjust their team anyway.
Yeah, we'll see if anyone listens. Anyway, pumped for that mini league.
I'm really excited for FPL this season as well, and I'm actually I'm in an exciting different type of league. I don't know if you're familiar with the app Sleeper. I
Oh,
play fantasy football on Sleeper,
I'm
but
gonna
I'm
do that.
doing nice. I'm doing fantasy Premier League on Sleeper this year, so it's like more head-to-head style. So instead of like
Oh,
draft, it's like instead of like a budget and everyone like can customize their teams how they want. It works more like traditional fantasy, like American football, where you go snake draft, pick your teams, and you're playing people head to head each week. So I think that'll be a really interesting kind of switch up for me, who for someone that's used to the traditional FPL format.
nice. Who was that with? Who you playing that in that league with?
That is with a bunch of guys that I don't know. I actually got added to a group message for soccer last season by one of my friends that lives in Atlanta with me. Shout out to Bogey, and he added me to a group message with a bunch of guys from St. Louis. So I actually don't know any of these people in real life besides one person, and I just kind of shot a message in there. I was like, "Yo, yo, this sounds kind of dope. Can I join y'all's league, even though I don't know you?" And they opened me or welcomed me with open arms. So now I'm in there going to try and take their money this season.
Nice. Have you already done the draft?
Yeah, I did my draft last night actually.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually not doing a draft in Sleeper, but I was listening to the FML or FPL Wire podcast,
Hmm.
and they'll do like a pick 'em where you just pick the winners every week, and they if you join their league, the top three people at the end of each month win a kit, and top 10 at the end of the year win no, top 10 at the end of the year, yeah, win a kit, and like the top three win a PS5.
Wow.
Free to join. All you do is pick the winners, like pick the result of every game. So win, loss, draw. You don't have to pick the score, which is nice. So I'm gonna hop
Wow.
on that and get involved with that this year.
I'm definitely going to hop on that as well.
Yeah, free to join on Sleeper. So yeah,
Nice. That's a good plug. That's a great plug.
Sleeper going to sponsor us.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Do you have anything else FPL wise or Premier League preview wise?
No, hoping just excited for FPL to be back. Hoping for a better start because last year I had a horrible start, but climbed my
Mm.
way up to a respectable finish. So just hoping for a better start this year. So I want to slowly and steadily climb my way up.
Yeah, do you have a target end spot for yourself?
Last year I finished right around 100K. 2 years ago I finished at 10K. So I'd love
Hmm.
to finish top 10 and get like that 4 digit rank. That'd be really, really nice. But mostly just win the mini league and finish around top 10K are the goals.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, that's similar for me. I think the season before that, I finished like top 12-ish K or something like that. Like, I feel like I remember us being pretty close towards the end, and then I had a bad, like, end last week. And then last year, I was also like a little bit over 100K, like probably like 120-ish or something like that.
Mm,
But I do feel like I felt really good about how I finished the season. So I'm hoping to be able to start strong. I think last year was just weird. I think a lot of players just like kind of got in trouble towards the beginning of the season, and it was hard to climb your way back. But I'm going to do my best to start strong and hopefully finish like top 10K again this season. And like you said, hopefully top the mini league because that is something I haven't been able to do yet.
nice.
All right.
Yeah, well, best of luck.
Yeah, you as well. Godspeed.
Yep.
Nice. But I think that's all we got for you guys today. I appreciate you guys tuning in to our first pod of the EPL season. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to finish top eight, who you think is going to be your winner. If you have got any surprises or players to watch out for this season. I think one thing we didn't touch on too much is like any exciting transfers, like new players coming into the league. So that'll be something interesting to talk about in the weeks following. I think over the next couple of weeks, obviously we're going to talk about the games, but we plan on doing a larger conversation on transfer window and kind of grading teams' transfer windows come the end of the transfer window, end of the month. So be on the lookout for that. We're also going to start bringing in some guests to like some friends to come talk about their teams, get some reactions to some of the matches, get a little bit more banter, a little bit more fresh blood on the podcast. So also be on the lookout for that. Um,
And maybe some live stream watch alongs with friends during
oh
some
yeah,
games. I'm really excited for that.
Yep.
That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have some live stream watch alongs. So we're gonna, if you have some games that you think would be good to do that, let us know. I have got United versus Spurs with Bailey coming up.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some big matchups coming up in the first few weeks of the season. So, yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. Alrighty, guys, we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Ball. Let's Talk Ball. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, rate on Spotify, like on Instagram if this is turned into a clip, what yada yada yada. Just any sort of engagement helps a lot. So I appreciate that. All right, peace.
Bye, everyone.